Hey everyone, Austin here and I'm finally back with another video. Thank you to everyone who's taken some time out of their day to watch this. I've been working on this one for a long time. I recently just moved and got a new job, so that's been taking up a lot of my time, but I've been working on this one for a while, so I hope you enjoy it. Before I really get into the nitty gritty of the video though, I just want to say when I'm looking at length, I'm talking about just the length of the game and how the length affects your enjoyment because of the length, not because of outside factors such as a work schedule or family responsibilities, because those things definitely do shape your preference with game length, but I don't want that to be the central focus of this video. A couple months ago, I finally took the plunge and got Persona 5 Royal. I was told it was a fantastic game and that I'd really enjoy my time with it, but I ended up actually owning it for a while before I actually put it in and played it. This was because of the one thing that I had heard about the game from those who loved it and those who didn't: how long it was. I feared popping it into my new shiny PS5 because I knew it would take a while to complete. I heard it would take anywhere from 100 to 175 hours to fully complete, and this sounded daunting to me. I tend to be on the slower side for finishing games, and I'm pretty busy as well in real life, as you can probably tell from the amount of videos I've uploaded in the last few months. I thought that Persona 5 Royal was going to be too long for me, and Persona 5 is definitely a long game. But that doesn't mean it's too long, so let's talk about it. Games really come down to one thing: enjoyment. Are you having fun? But what makes a game fun? Why would people prefer to play a game over reading a book, watching a movie, or doing other leisure activities? I think the reason some people prefer games is because they're interactive. Whether it's a mindless arcade shooter or a thought-provoking narrative game, they allow us to feel like we're a part of the action, or a part of the story. We have a responsibility in it. This interactivity allows games to invoke feelings that passive media simply cannot, and allows players to play games for hours upon hours. But to sustain this enjoyment, a game needs to have one thing: a gameplay loop with payoffs. If a game does not have an engaging gameplay loop, people won't stick around. Players give you a single chance to entertain them, so something like an unpolished control set can cause people to jump ship early. This is one place where I think Persona 5 Royal might be too long. Its tutorial and opening. This part of the game is too long. It holds your hands for hours, and it won't fully let you off the leash until you're well into the first palace. This could be a turnoff for new players, and can really turn them away before they even really get into the meat and potatoes of the game. It's nice for players who aren't familiar with the Persona gameplay, but it also turns these players away because it doesn't stop holding their hand. After this, Persona 5 has a gameplay loop that needs to carry you through 100 plus hours of gameplay. It took me just under 150 hours for my playthrough, and the gameplay loop is what carried me through the game. The palace loop consists of a basic: kill enemies to advance, acquire something new, and then use that new acquisition to get stronger. For Persona, it is: you kill enemies, you acquire new personas, and then you use these personas to fuse new, stronger persona. And then use these new personas to kill stronger enemies, thus restarting the loop. The social loop ties into the palace loop from outside the dungeons. All of your social interactions are designed to make killing enemies and exploring the dungeon easier or faster, in one way or another. The social aspect is also where the overarching narrative and the personal narrative takes place. These loops ultimately culminate with a payoff that comes together in completing a palace. Persona 5 does a really good job of combining gameplay and story payoffs in one moment: a palace boss fight. These boss fights allow you to use all the new persona you've acquired while also resolving the story from outside the dungeon up to this point and pushing it forward to lead us into a new palace. These payoffs are what are needed to make the loop feel worth it. Collecting loot is a tried and true gameplay loop that works in many games, but just collecting loot often becomes underwhelming and grows stale if you're not given the opportunity to use this loot in new and exciting encounters. Persona 5 has this type of loop, and it does a good job of scaling the game so you can use your upgraded persona in a meaningful way. Persona 5 also has a big narrative payoff that is threaded throughout the game. This is going to be a spoiler, so skip ahead to this timestamp on the screen if you want to avoid a Persona 5/Persona 5 Royal spoiler. Igor, our Velvet Room boss, ends up actually being a god that has been playing a game with our soul and the world this whole time, becoming the unexpected final big bad. This ending would have felt fulfilling and underwhelming if there hadn't been a proper setup for it, And so one setup for this twist is that Igor is a reoccurring character in Persona. And so in the previous entries, he has a much higher pitched, regal sounding voice, but in Persona 5, he has this deep, menacing voice and this deep, menacing laugh. And that's because it's not the real Igor, rather a god I mentioned earlier. Alice was able to slip this past a lot of people because of the original voice actor in Japanese passing in real life. So maybe they thought it was just a recasting and this is the new direction they decided to go. But this only happens for Persona fans that have been fans before coming to Persona 5. If you were new to Persona and this is your first Persona game, you also get the setup of Caroline and Justine, the Velvet Room attendants, and their social link. Their cutscenes and the social link hint that something is wrong, especially with their memories, and that Igor is someone that they do not want to tell this to when they are discovering this about themselves, making him seem suspicious. With both these things combined, it makes us feel like we should have put it together sooner when the big twist is revealed at the end. So Persona 5 does have a good gameplay loop, but there becomes a point when a gameplay loop loses its appeal. There are good games that have good gameplay loops, but they overstay their welcome, i.e. being too long. I love the Assassin's Creed games, but the exploration, collection, and kind of mission loop of these games normally wears me down around the 30-hour mark, and the rest of the game becomes a chore to finish that I have to do because I love completing things. I don't like leaving them unfinished, making these games feel too long to me personally. But there are many others that could play those games for hours and hours and hours past where my breaking point is and do not consider them too long. I think the same goes for Persona 5 Royal. As a fan of JRPGs, their tropes, and social simulations, Persona feels like a game that checks a lot of my personal boxes. I was not ready to say goodbye to the Phantom Thieves at the end of my 150-hour journey, but the game ended, so I had to move on. So that's me. Was Persona 5 Royal too long? Not really. I could have played it for hours and hours more. I didn't want to say goodbye to these characters in the game, but I could see many people being worn out by the loop by that third dungeon, especially if you're not a fan of turn-based RPGs and social simulations. So to answer the question, is Persona 5 Royal too long? I don't think it is. I think Persona 5 Royal has a really strong gameplay loop, and it pays off if you're into RPGs, their tropes, and social simulations. It can easily carry you through 100 plus hours of enjoyment. But I understand that Persona 5 Royal is not for everyone. The very thing that makes Persona 5 Royal special is the same things that make it lose mass appeal. I would not recommend Persona 5 Royal to anyone that does not have at least some interest in some of the things Persona 5 Royal does really well. I would not recommend it in the same way I would recommend something like The Witcher 3. Also, very long game in its own right, but I think has more mass appeal. Or a game like Final Fantasy VII Remake, another JRPG that I would say has more mass appeal, even if the story could be potentially confusing. But all this is just one gamer's opinion, mine. Do you guys think Persona 5 Royal is too long? What was your guys' experience with the game? And if you have not played Persona 5 Royal, does this video make you want to give it a try or maybe pass on it because of its length? Just let me know down in the comments below. But that's all I have for you guys today. Thank you for tuning in and watching this video. I hope to have some more videos out soon about PlayStation 5, some upcoming Xbox games that I'm really excited for, and an exciting Last of Us Part 2 video that I have been working on for a while. Thanks, guys. Have a great day. See you next time.